Have you ever heard of the Vanport flood? Most people haven't. Most people don't even know where Vanport is. But the Vanport flood is the story of the death of a city that was too black for Oregon. I'm your host, Grant Yanni. Black Folklore starts now. Oregon is one of the whitest states in America. Only 3% of the entire state is black, and this is no coincidence. On September 21st, 1849, Oregon's territorial legislature enacted a law that literally banned blacks from entering, residing, or working/doing business in the state. That's wild though, because Oregon also prohibited slavery outright. Talk about proxy abolitionists. I guess they didn't want no parts of black folks at all. This exclusionary clause stayed in place until it was repealed by voters in 1926. While Oregon was successful in strategically creating a white utopian state, World War II rolled in with other plans. White men began getting drafted in droves to fight overseas, which created a labor shortage. Now at the same time, blacks saw an opportunity to create a better life for themselves and their families in many that migrated from the South to the northern, western, and midwestern states. Just like my folks. This mass move was also known as the Great Migration. Portland became an ideal location for blacks and poor whites seeking employment during wartime America. People began arriving in Portland by the thousands. By the early 1940s, Portland's black population exploded, and city officials suddenly had a housing crisis on their hands. City officials needed a way to fix the housing shortage, but also made sure to keep their discriminatory housing policies intact. One thing they didn't want was to make black families too comfortable. They might not leave after the war was over. Portland can only absorb a minimum number of Negroes without upsetting the city's regular life, said the city's mayor at the time. Enter industrialist and owner of Oregon Shipbuilding Corporation, Henry Kaiser. His shipyard needed workers immediately. So in 1943, he decided to build a temporary housing project on the Columbia River. The haphazard city of Vanport was completed in just 110 days, with the system of dikes as the only protection from the massive river. The town, which was built on marshland, had over 10,000 cheaply made apartments and homes. They were uncomfortable, unsanitary, and physically separated from Portland by the Columbia Slough. Vanport grew into the second largest city in Oregon. It was also the largest housing project in the country. At its peak, it was home to 40,000 workers, more than 6,000 of whom were black. But everything would change for Vanport in 1948. A snowy winter mixed with warm and rainy spring caused the Columbia River to reach dangerous heights. City officials began monitoring the dikes, but didn't issue a single warning to residents. Instead, the Housing Authority of Portland and the United States Army Corps of Engineers told residents that the city need not worry about the flooding because the dikes were not in jeopardy of collapsing. That was a lie. While reassuring Vanport residents that the city was safe, the Housing Authority of Portland secretly removed files and equipment from their offices in the city. They also relocated 600 horses from a nearby racetrack. On May 30, 1948, the dikes began to give way. At first, it was just a crack about 6 feet wide. But that crack rapidly expanded, and before residents even knew what was happening, there was a 500-foot gap in the dikes. Thousands of homes were washed away in the blink of an eye. Within 10 minutes, the entire city was gone. Destruction and devastation, the only thing left. There was never any warning from law enforcement or city officials, and residents lost everything. 15 people died and 18,000 residents were displaced. 1/3 of them were black. Vanport could have been saved if white people wanted it to be. It's hard not to believe that this was the plan for Vanport all along. Temporary housing built atop marshland, building materials that weren't worth a damn. Vanport was never intended to succeed. It was just a scheming way to use blacks for their labor and then let nature dispose of them so that the whites didn't have to do it. Is it just me, or does this remind you a little of Hurricane Katrina? After all, they say history repeats itself.